This is tea time. Yeah. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome everybody. We are back. It is afternoon tea time, and I have a returning guest from season 3 back in the studio. We're going to do some updates, and we're going to talk about pickleball and books and all of that good stuff because we had a good time the last time we talked about pickleball. So we got Jeff Rasley back from season 3. He's a philanthropist, author, founder, director of nonprofits, and I was able to say the word this morning. I couldn't say it with with Michael. I was just like, okay, so humanitarian aid. I could not get the word philanthropist out of my mouth this morning for the life of me, but I can this afternoon. So that's a good start. So let's get started with the disclaimer and a little bit of bio of Jeff. And then we're going to get Jeff in here and he's going to spill another TEA with us and the why, because we got into the how and what, but we didn't get into the why. So we'll get into that this afternoon. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time Live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, it may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect your wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all tea times this year in 2023 are on Thursday, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. If they are not on a Thursday, it's a rescheduled show, which is a Monday or a Tuesday. So now a little bit about Jeff. And then I'm going to sit back on my green matcha tea here and I'm going to enjoy some pickleball and some books. So Jeff Rasley lives on the White River in I can't say it in my tongue. In Indianapolis. I hope I said it right. With Alicia and Poppy. His first published writing was poetry in the Hanover College Fine Art Journal. Over 80 feature articles on low travel, spirituality, politics, and human interest followed in Newsweek, Chicago's magazine, ABA Journal, and other periodicals. I'm not even sure how to say that word. I'll get Jeff to tell me. And Jeff is the author of 14 books. So we're going to get Jeff in here. And if you'd like to see Jeff's full bio, please check out Mrs. Facebook page. And I'm going to take a sip of tea because my tongue is doing that thing again. So let me get Jeff in here. Welcome, Jeff.
Good afternoon, Liz. And I've got my teacup.
I'm telling you, today I am struggling with my tongue. My tongue is just not working well with me at all.
Well, your tongue and our computers.
Right? It's like I can't win today. Today is just one of those days where Miss Liz is just like all over. I told everybody it's a wacky day today, and it is. So Jeff, let's get into you've been here on season 3, and we talked about pickleball. So let's get back into the pickleball. So have you played any pickleball since we talked?
I played this morning.
So for anybody out there who doesn't know what pickleball is, could you share a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's sort of a game that combines tennis and ping pong. So it's on a shrunken tennis court, and uses paddles, which are a little bigger than ping pong paddles, but much smaller than tennis rackets. And it uses a ball, which is kind of like a wiffle ball. The net's a little bit lower than a tennis net. And so it's because the court's smaller, it makes it easier for older people to play. And it's very popular with older people, us athletes who are over the hill but refuse to quit trying. Yeah, and it's got some unique rules, but it's the rules are sort of again a combination of tennis and ping pong rules.
I remember the first time I talked about pickleball, I was like, "What is that?" Like, I honestly thought there was a ball that looked like a pickle. Remember when we first talked about this? I was just like,
I
"What
do.
look like?"
Well, the first time I ever saw pickleball played was actually in Stratford, Canada.
Oh,
We were up, Alicia and I were up. We used to go up for the Shakespeare Festival every year, and this was probably 7, 8 or so years ago. And I heard this thwack, thwack, thwack. As we were walking by these courts coming out of the theater, and saw this ridiculous looking game. And I thought, I was a longtime tennis player and thought, oh man, what a silly game. I would never play that. And then a few years later, I'm the organizer of 2 different pickleball groups, and it has become my sport.
well, I guess those whack, whack, whacks woke you up to go and play the pickle, right?
Yes, yes. I'm playing with a pickle in public.
You just never know what comes out of Miss Liz's mouth on the. But when I first looked up pickleball, I was like, "What is this?" Like, I was amused by the pickleball. But we talked about your book back then, and we had talked about a few books because you had a few books come out when you were on season 3, and you have another couple books that just came out this year. So do you
Right.
want to share a little bit about those ones that just came out, and then we'll get back into the ones that we talked about last year?
Yeah, well, um, the last one that came out is actually the very first book I wrote. And what happened is bringing progress to paradise, what I got from giving to a mountain village in Nepal, was published by a publisher and it went out of print last year. And so the rights, if a book goes out of print with a publisher, the rights are returned to the author. So eventually I got around to republishing it, but it's the same book that came out in 2010. It's just now published by Midsummer Books, our family publishing company, instead of Canary Press. And but the other book, which I was really much more excited about because it was sort of a unique effort, was called 72 Wisdoms. And it has 72 chapters, which start with a quote. And the quotes are from all sorts of different people ranging from Muhammad Ali and Dolly Parton to ancient Greek philosophers, the Dalai Lama. So it covers a wide range of wisdom quotes. And then I look deeply into each quote, like, who said it, when was it said or written, and to try to really elucidate the deepest meaning offered, and then other related bits of wisdom. And it's kind of organized to take you through a series of what I hope are greater understandings of sort of the great questions of life. And so when you come to the end of it, my goal was that you will feel wiser and have a deeper sense of how to live a rich and meaningful life.
So the book of 72 Wisdoms, who did the cover on that one again?
My son, James. And this is, if you look at it, it's hard to believe how he came up with this. He actually started with a photograph that I took in Nepal the very first time I went there, way back in 1995. And the photograph is of a Nepali porter gazing at a mountain called Amadablam, which is one of the most beautiful mountains in the world. It's on the Everest Base Camp trek. And he's resting with his doko basket on his tokma, the stick that he uses as like a crutch or walking stick. And he's just gazing off in the distance at this beautiful mountain. And my son took that and created this sort of abstract Rorschach looking thing, which wasn't what I expected, but I decided, yeah, that looks pretty cool.
It was really different. Like when I seen the cover, I was like, oh, that is different.
Yeah, well, I call James JJ. He's a creative guy. So yeah, I was pleased with it.
I think I got a frog in the throat. I'm not sure what's going on. I keep choking.
Uh-oh. Maybe you need another sip of that Miss Liz special tea.
Yeah, I think I need a hot tolly today. I'm actually drinking a green lemonade, green matcha today. So it's different. Maybe it's just the lemonade that's getting me. The little lemon is just powing me out.
Wow, well this is really coincidental because I'm drinking green tea with a bit of lemon juice in it.
Well, look at that. We're drinking almost the same kind of tea here.
Despite the computer problems we had hooking up today, at least we should be synced.
Right? Oh, it's just one of those days, Jeff. I think it's just, when we have reunion shows and we have these returning episodes and tea times, it just seems like everything flows in a different way, right? From the first time.
Yeah, well, it's, better that we have these little missteps when we're old veterans than, you get a newbie on and that your guest is going to be a little bit nervous. And so, we'll just flow with it.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens, right? When you return, the ice is already broken with Miss Liz. So I already know a little bit where I can go and where I can't go, So,
yeah.
So I want to talk to you, Jeff. You gave me a tea last time, but I want a different tea from you this time. So if I give you the TEA, what 3 words are you going to give me this time?
Wow. And I really hadn't thought about
I knew you didn't, because the last time too, I got you on this one.
Yeah, you do. Okay. So I have to come up with a T first.
Yeah. A T, an E, and an A. You got it.
Okay. I'm going to come up. My T is teaching, education, and the A is arts, but in a very broad sense of arts. And the reason I came up with that instantaneously is I'm, in addition to the BASA Foundation, which you and I have talked about before, I'm the president of another foundation called Scientech Foundation of Indiana, and it focuses not on arts education, but on STEM, science, technology, and engineering and medicine. But because, and I actually, I shared a quote with you a couple days ago about how science can sort of tell us the how, but we need the liberal arts, humanities, to tell us the why. And as I've become the president, I am trying to help evolve this very sort of narrow scientific STEM-oriented foundation to having a broader mission, which is we call STEAM. So that we've got, the STEM with the addition of arts, and which I really mean humanities by that, because in reality, STEM education is doing very well because, young people all want to go into fields that they're going to make money at. And we've, sort of society has come to the conclusion that if you major in humanities or you graduate, with a degree in humanities, you're not going to make any money. And I have a real different take on that because I majored in humanities and I was a millionaire by the time I was 40. So there you go, proof to the contrary. But it's also important for people who are in the sciences and medicine and engineering to have a humanistic understanding of life. Otherwise, the work they do just becomes, kind of abstract, impersonal, and that's dangerous in my view, because we always, whatever we're doing, it's for and with other human beings. And so that's what I'm, trying to sort of emphasize with this other foundation, which has done really wonderful work in the STEM field.
And I think we talked a little bit about this when you were on the last show about the STEM and how education and how we need to direct it in a different way, right? As humanitarians, we have to start guiding from our hearts, have that empathy. Like a lot of people, a lot of people will say I'm a humanitarian, but when you ask them where their heart is, they're like, oh, well, just the money. Give me the donations. Okay, but there's more than just donations with these foundations. There's meeting the people, understanding their traditions. And you found for yourself when you went for a hike, like when your wife told you to take a hike, you literally took a hike, like, and you made a difference with that hike. And you do a lot of work with Nepal. So do you want to share a little bit about that, Jeff?
Sure. But just before I transition to Nepal, I want to share an example of really to illustrate exactly what you were saying about, doing work with the sense of humanity. The vice president of the Scientech Foundation is a guy named Dr. Benny Coe. Benny's a retired radiologist. So when the war in Ukraine broke out, Russian invasion, Benny had some connections with Ukraine from years back. And so he's a retired doctor. Benny raised some money through some friends, me included, and he went over and he opened a clinic on the border of Hungary and Ukraine to treat mostly civilians, but he would have treated soldiers too, but civilians fleeing the fighting. And so here's a guy who's a scientist, a doctor. He had been also a professor, and but his heart was so big that he used these skills, his medical skills, to go and to engage in this just, I think, incredibly admirable humanistic enterprise. And so, I'm so proud to have him as my vice president, but, what a wonderful example of combining humanism with science.
Right?
Ready.
We need more people like him. We really do.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
So are you helping Ukraine at all, Jeff?
I have given some money to some organizations, but I'm not doing anything direct. and I have a Ukrainian and an American U.S. flag flying on my mailbox, which went up shortly after the invasion. Actually, the Ukraine flag was given to me by Benny. So I have tweeted quite a bit, sort of anti-Putin, anti-invasion tweets, and but when Benny was going over, he actually asked if I wanted to go with him. And unfortunately, I had just suffered a sports injury right before that. And I would have been a liability instead of an asset. So I didn't go. Plus, I wasn't really sure what a law degree was going to do to help refugees fleeing war. But I'd like to do more. And I definitely want to support the people that are helping. And I, pray that this war comes to an end and Ukraine is able to, establish its full nationhood with its actual boundaries once again.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is keep it in the eyes of the people, right? Because it's not in the news anymore, but it's still happening over there. This is how we started season 4 with Miss Liz. Was I had a couple people that are in Ukraine who actually did a little an animation opening for the stories of Ukrainians that are going through it. So we just need to keep that story going, and keep the voices going, and hope, like you said, hope it ends soon. It's really sad that we have to have wars in this day and age, right?
Yeah, the adage of beating swords into plowshares, it's just we just don't seem to learn. That's as several of the chapters in 72 Wisdom deal with, why do people fight? What is this urge to violence, to conquer, to subjugate? And it's a struggle that I have felt and thought deeply about ever since I was a teenager and started thinking about the Vietnam War, because I grew up in a very patriotic family. My dad served in both World War II and Korea, and as a kid, I just assumed I'd go into the military. And then, as I studied the war in Vietnam, and I concluded this is wrong. The United States had no business invading that country, and I could not support it. So, so that was really sort of the start of my anti-war attitude and activism. And the third organization that I'm on the board is called the Indianapolis Peace and Justice Center, and that organization is devoted entirely to the issues of peace and justice. And so I'm, proud to work through that organization towards peace and justice.
Did you just join that one, Jeff?
No, I've been on the Peace and Justice Board for probably 4 years now.
So does that help, like, with bringing peace? Like, does it do events or host events, or does it go on missions? Like, how do you bring the awareness through that organization?
It's totally an educational and consciousness lifting, awareness making organization. So we have a program every other month where we highlight a particular issue about peace and justice, and we have a newsletter that we put out with articles on peace and justice issues. So, and it's one of those things where at every board meeting we sort of look at each other and we say, well, shouldn't we be doing something more? We're trying to educate and raise awareness, but shouldn't we do? And then we sort of conclude, well, okay, other than going out to vote, We can go to demonstrations and carry signs and that kind of thing. But since all of us on the board are over 60, it's like, come on, younger generation, that's your role. We're the mentors, but you guys, you young people, get out there, get out on the street, demonstrate, make your voices heard, and of course, vote.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, Jeff, because we need to encourage the new generation to stand up and start taking roles, because we're not going to be around forever. Somebody's got to take it over, you know? So how can we get the youths involved in projects like this?
Well, it's a struggle. And I think COVID really set the younger generation back. I was teaching a course on philanthropy at Butler University as COVID wound down. And this was last year, winter semester. So we start out the semester, masks are mandatory. Halfway through the semester, masks become optional. So, that was the climate at the time. And the students in that class of mine were, in a sense, the worst students I ever had. And by that, I hate using that term, but in terms of just being engaged and showing enthusiasm, it was a struggle. And this was an elective course. All 15 of those students were there because they chose to be. It was an honors course. So these should be the best and the brightest students. And it was just like they were, kind of depressed. And it was, I just didn't see the enthusiasm, the passion that I had seen in the previous classes that I'd taught on philanthropy. So I don't know. Our Scientech Foundation, its total focus is on the education of young, and we do preschool programs up through college, and that's our focus, is to get young people engaged in the study of STEAM and help them through their careers. And we give away about $250,000 every year to support programs that do that. And then the Peace and Justice Center, one of our challenges is we've been trying to get young people involved. And so we've had a young person, either a senior level college student or somebody right out of college on the board. But each of those young persons have left after a year or two and have just, the sort of the long-term engagement we hope they would offer and then bring in more younger people. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I seen a switch, right? Like it's like you said, like mid COVID, everyone had the mask, and then it was take the mask off. It was optional. And I seen the change in people. When COVID came, there was a lot of closeness, a lot of missing families, there was a lot of empathy. But midway, it was almost like the world just went dark. It went heavy. And the empathy was like, I don't care. I don't care. And like I'm getting a lot of that. I don't care. Instead of how can I help? How can I make a change? And that's what I want to do, is encourage people to just keep trying. It's going to be harder now because of COVID and because of different restrictions and guidelines and rules, but you can still do it. It's just going to take more work. And I think they don't want to do the work.
Well, I think humanity is on this sort of long trajectory of trying to make life more and more comfortable, while at the same time more stimulating and entertaining. Yeah. So we have this, sort of focus of I want to be comfortable and I want to be entertained. And that cuts directly against I want to be an activist and engaged in humanistic enterprise, because that takes work. Yeah. And so, it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's like you said, it takes work. Nobody wants to work anymore. Everybody wants everything given to them. The entitlement is ridiculous. Like, work for it, stay up that extra hour. But I find that we're overloaded as well, right? We're getting so much information given to us all at once. Technology, like we struggled with it just before we went live, you know,
Yeah, yes, we did.
it's up, it's down, but you got to stay consistent and you got to just push through it, right? You just got to do it, whether there's some little loopholes or some little spills or messes. You just got to keep pushing through it. And I think that's where we don't have that anymore. And right now in today's society is everyone just wants everything. They just want entertainment. Just entertain me. But they're forgetting about the little guy back there that needs a sandwich or needs a home, or they're more focused on the entertainment than they are about human race.
Well, and I think what's unfortunate is there's a lot of research and data that shows people feel better about themselves when they give.
Yeah.
That, yeah, it's great to be entertained. Sure, we all want to be entertained, but life feels more meaningful and you feel better about yourself when, at least to some extent, you're giving to others. And there's been a lot of experiments done that show that you actually get that little alpha, beta, theta high in your brain, in your chemistry, when you do something that's completely self-sacrificing. And so I think if people can be introduced and get involved in philanthropic enterprises and they experience that, it'll continue. And that's why I taught this course here in Indianapolis, Marian University and Butler University, on philanthropy, hoping that it would engage college students and get them on a path that would be lifelong. And I know that it was working. I'm still in touch with people from the very first class I taught. In fact, I got an email just yesterday from one of my very first students who's going over. He married a Ukrainian woman, and he and his wife are going over to meet with her family, who's managed to get out of Ukraine for the first time. And Josh is my former student's name, and he's done all sorts of philanthropic work. Worked in one of Mother Teresa's centers over in India, taught school in Vietnam. And I could give other examples. So I hope that this last class I taught, because it's going to be my last one, I'm done being a professor.
Are you retiring?
Well, I retired from law a long time ago after 30 years at that. And so I did, teaching at the college level for a few years now. And so I'm just going to devote myself to running these foundations, writing, and playing pickleball.
There you go. That good old pickle, right?
Yes, my stimulating entertainment.
Yeah, because I'm still too young to play pickleball. I have to be 54 before I can join the team here. So I'm only 5 years away. So in another 5 years, then I'll get to the pickle.
Yeah. Oh, you youngsters.
I'm 1 year away from the big 5-0. So, I'm getting there. I tried. When I asked, and they're like, no, you got to be at least 54. And I was like, oh, okay. I'll be back in 5 years.
Well, it come down to Indianapolis. We don't have an age limit on our groups.
Yeah, here it's 54 and up. So I'm not sure what the 54 stands for, but
I don't know.
So Jeff, you're a part of a lot of different organizations and nonprofits. How old were you when you started your first one?
Well, actually, I was a senior in high school when my girlfriend and I organized the first Walk for Hunger in Goshen, Indiana. We were in Goshen High School, and we came up with this idea. We'd seen other schools do this, and Susan was her name. She really was kind of the driving force to get it going, and I assisted her, and we put together this sort of community-wide celebration to kick it off, and it turned into a fundraiser for a medical mission for Native Americans, and also some local charities. So at the age of 17, that was my first one.
Wow. I wanted to ask you that question because I want the youths out there that are listening to the Tea Time and that will watch the replay later. You know, there's no age limit to start this. You know, and the younger the better, because then you have more years to give, right? And the more you give, the more you get. You know, when you're really working from the heart, you really make a difference. So we were talking a few minutes ago about Nepal, and then we kind of went off track and we kind of went the other way. So when I had you on last season, we talked about your wife telling you to take a hike, and then that hike turned into a lot of different things for you. So if you'd like to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I was suffering from a midlife crisis. At least I was manifesting those symptoms, and I already had a convertible sports car and a Harley motorcycle, and so Alicia decided that those were not resolving the symptoms. So came home from the office one day, and she slapped this brochure down on the table in front of me and said, "Why don't you go do this?" And it was to join a trek on the Mount Everest Base Camp Trail. So as my, you know, or the joke is, my wife told me to go take a hike and to do it on the other side of the world. So I did. And I went with a friend who's actually on the board of the Basa Foundation all these many years later, because this was back in 1995. But I fell in love with Nepal, the mountains, the people, the culture. And so I kept going back. I learned how to become a mountain climber and was eventually organizing treks and climbs. And I tried to combine some charitable work. So I started calling it philanthrotrekking. And that's what the first book about that effort, the Bringing Progress to Paradise book, is how I sort of transitioned from being a trekker climber into the focus being more on the philanthropic side of what I was doing in Nepal. And so the subtitle of that book is What I Got from Giving to a Mountain, to a Himalayan village in Nepal. And that's because I felt like I was given back just a lot of wonderful things through my connection with Basa. So it was definitely not a one way, you know, I'm just giving you. It was very much a sense of mutuality.
And how many times have you done that hike?
I've been over to Nepal 13 times and to India once. But I probably will not be going back. I think I did my last one a few years ago, and because, you know, it'd get in the way of my pickleball game. But
we got to take care of that pickle.
That's right. We do have younger members on the Basa Foundation, and so we've had somebody from our foundation go over every year, except the 2 worst years of COVID. But so last year and this year we've had people return, and so as long as we've got somebody from the foundation going over, you know, I don't have to.
And you also have a foundation with your wife, Alicia, the internship program for the ACLU for India. What's Indiana? What's that about?
Well, we endowed we gave enough money to the American Civil Liberty Union chapter in Indiana so that they can pay their interns every year. And because they've had 5, 7 or more summer interns every year, and they've been doing this for a long time, but those kids were unpaid. And so you've got law students, college students working at what I think is really important work, because all of their legal and their advocacy work are about important civil rights issues, and issues of freedom and personal choice, most of which I agree with. Sometimes I don't agree with positions the ACLU has taken. But I don't think it's right for interns to work for free. That's just, to me, that's slave labor. And an organization like the ACLU, I don't think should be doing that. But the response was, well, we have to. We don't have the money to pay them. So we gave the money to pay them.
And you were also in law for many years, correct?
30 years.
Wow. So what got you into law?
I didn't know what else to do. I graduated from college.
I thought I'd just go to law school. I had nothing better to do.
Yeah. Well, in a way, that was almost sort of like what it was, because I graduated in December. Of course, law school starts in the fall. And so I had a while to work. And in the meantime, I had taken the LSAT test, but I had not applied to any law schools. And so September rolls around and I'm working for an insurance company, and which was okay. I mean, I was getting paid decently, but it was really kind of a drag. It was definitely not what I wanted to do with my life. And this was in downtown Chicago. Well, a block away was this small private law school called Chicago Kent Law School. So I just walked down there right when their classes were starting and said, I'd like to apply. And it just happened that the assistant dean of admissions was a University of Chicago graduate, which was my alma mater. And so she said, well, come in, I'll interview you and you can apply for next year. And I said, well, no, I want to go now. And she said, well, wait a minute, classes just started. And she says, well, let me look at your record. And so then, not to be too braggadocious, but I was a Phi Beta Kappa graduate, had really high grades, a very good LSAT score. And she said, oh, okay, you're in. So that's how I started law school. And so I went there a year, and then I transferred down to Indiana University to, come back home. And once I decided, I definitely want to be a lawyer and practice law, I absolutely could not do it in Chicago. The system was way too corrupt, shockingly corrupt, as I learned more about it. So moved to Indianapolis, graduated from law school here, and have stayed.
So you went from lawyer to professor to pickleball director.
Yeah, that last one doesn't pay very well.
I didn't think so, right?
It only pays by me beating my opponents. That's the payoff.
There's that word that whack comes in, right?
Yeah.
So what message would you have for any of the youths out there about law, if they would like to get into it, Jeff?
Law is very difficult. I mean, it's hard work. Law school is a real grind. I did not enjoy law school. There were a few courses I enjoyed, but most of them were just a grind that you had to live through, sort of like, soldiers going through boot camp. But there's a lot of really great things you can do as a lawyer. I mean, you can get into public advocacy, do social justice work, but you can also make a very good living if you're a good lawyer. I mean, you got to be good at it, or you probably won't make a very good living. And then if you make a good living, that opens up all these other possibilities of, like, all these other things that I've done. And so, you can do good work as a lawyer. And even if you're in private practice and you're making a lot of money, still you're representing clients who need help. I mean, they may be big companies or rich people, but so those companies and those rich people still have problems that they need help with. So a lawyer, in a lot of ways, is a problem solver. And sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out the right contract or document that's needed. Sometimes it's negotiation, and sometimes it's sue the bastards. So,
So were you a defense lawyer or were you a prosecutor?
Well, most of the work I did was civil litigation representing either individuals or businesses, excuse me, they either wanted to sue somebody or were getting sued. So I was on, both defense and plaintiff. I did some criminal work, and I was always on the defense side. And for a period of time, I was a juvenile court public defender, but that was a part-time job. And I was also, for a long time, a federal court public defender. And those.
Oh, are you there, Jeff? I think we got a frozen screen. So as Jeff was sharing, he was sharing about laws. So if you'd like to know more about Jeff, you can check him out on Miss Liz's Facebook page. All of his bio is there. It's an incredible bio. He's done amazing work. And I'm just honored that he's back again and sharing more on his life and the journeys that he's taken. I hope that he can make it back. I think he's frozen, so I'm not sure if he can hear me or not. If he can, we'll get him back. He might have noticed that he got frozen, so he might just sign right back in. So let's just give him a few seconds for that. If you guys would like to know anything more about Miss Liz's Tea Times, you can check out Miss Liz's website at www.misslizsteatimes.com. You can check out the merchandise, check out some of the books. I just released a book collection. You can grab your copies there on the website or go to Amazon or any bookstore out there around the globe. And if you'd like to know more about Jeff, check out his website. His website is www.jeffreyrasley.com. Again, he's a philanthropist, an author, a founder, director of nonprofits. Just an amazing, incredible man. So I'm hoping that he can make it back. I'm not sure. Maybe internet connections. There is a lot of storms going on in Canada and the US, so it could be that. And if you'd like to know more about the different topics and that are going to be on Tea Time, you can check out Miss Liz's website. All the topics are there. All the podcasts are there. If there's a topic that you'd like to have on Tea Time and it hasn't been on Tea Time yet, reach out to me and I'll go through it and scan it and see if it's something my audience would like or my listeners would like, and who knows. And if you'd like to be a guest on Tea Time, you can always go to my website again and book a Tea Time, or go and email me directly at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. I'm hoping that he can make it back. We still have a few minutes left. If you have any questions or anything, you can send them directly to me on my Facebook page, or you can email me again with your questions. And if you're watching at Tea Time and you have a question and you don't want to have your name seen, you can always send a message directly to my DMs and I can ask those questions for you with any of the guests that are there. Tonight, we're going to be joined with Scott Overton, and he is going to be talking about science fiction. He's a Northern Ontario man, so up my rally because I'm a Northern Ontario girl. I'm living in Cornwall now, but I'm originally from Hearst, Ontario, so it's nice to see that I'll have another Northern Ontario person with me tonight. We'll be talking about science fiction, his books, broadcasting, and then charity work and volunteer and community services. All of my guests that were on today have community services and that, and they're really active in making a difference for humanity. So you'll see the alignment between all three guests. Just want to give you a little bit more on Jeff, because this is Jeff's Tea Time. So if you'd like to contact Jeff, you can go to www.jeffrasley.com. That is his website. If you would like to get any of his books, all of his books are listed there. The books that he has are, a couple of them is the 72 Wisdom, what we talked about today. Last season, we talked about the pickleball, soap opera, love, marriage, and pickleball. Love, murder, and pickleball, marriage. And you have to get there before you can be found. Islands Adventures, Hero Journey with John Ritter, The Chip Hilton of Garden, Indiana, and Memoir, Godless, False Prophet. He's got a list of incredible books, so you can go on and check those out. Grab a book from Jeff. Again, 72 Wisdom is really incredible. It really is different, and I love different. If anybody knows me, I love different. So there we go. See, when you wait around, he comes back. There we go. Welcome, welcome back, Jeff. I was just rambling and giving out some information about your books and all of that as well. So people can grab those and check out your website. So we left off. I'm not sure where we left off. Where did we leave off?
I think we left off whinging about technology.
There we go. And of course it boots us out, right? When we talk about it, it's like, you ain't having it, get out.
Yeah. I thought maybe that we hit the timer that said it was time to quit, so it just cut us off.
No, I seen you go frozen, and then I was like, oh, maybe just a frozen screen for a second, and then I was just like, I'm done. No. So we were talking about technology. Technology is just getting us back, right, today, both of us. So Jeff, we got a few minutes left before we wrap up your second tea time. I want to get into the word that you gave me when I asked you to give me one word. You gave me the word curious. Why that word?
I think I have lived a life of curiosity. I've always wanted to see, so what's on the other side of that mountain? Because if you're not curious enough to get to the top and look over the summit, you'll never know what's there. But I also I associate curiosity with adventuresomeness. I've always tried to live life as an adventure. Not just take what's given to you sort of right there in front of you, and to sort of stay in one easy trench to just get slotted in someplace, and that's your life, which is why I've tried lots of different things. And so yeah, curiosity.
I like that you gave me that word curious, because I could see you doing that, going around and checking what's behind that mountain. Let me get to this mountain. Ooh, what you got for me? Oh, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, there's sometimes I wish I would not have climbed that mountain. Should have chosen a different one.
So Jeff, any final words that you have for the guests out there?
Well, I would just reemphasize with what we started with our tea, in terms of education. Never stop learning. Our Scientech Club, which is what is the Scientech Foundation, is the philanthropic arm of this club. It's for retired professionals. And its motto is never stop learning, because we have an educational program every single Monday of every week, all year round. And so we want to keep our minds active. We want to stay engaged. And so that's what I hope, no matter what age you are, just don't stop learning. Be curious.
I like that. Don't stop learning. So, Jeff, before we leave, do you have any big plans for next year?
Well, no, I haven't gotten through with this year yet, but I have started another writing project, which I'm really enjoying. I had the longest layoff after I finished 72 Wisdoms before I started this one. Because usually I get started on another one fairly quickly, but I didn't feel inspired. Nothing was coming to me, and so a few weeks ago I sat down with Alicia, and we talked through it. Why aren't you feeling inspired? What would inspire you? And I started reminiscing about when I was 18 years old. I had one semester of college finished, and then I quit school, worked in a factory for a while, saved up a little bit of money, put a pack on my back, and hitchhiked across the country. And it was an incredible adventure from a kid from a small town in Indiana. I met some amazing people, had some amazing experiences, a few not so good, but mostly really interesting. And I decided I was going to write a fictional memoir about that experience, because it was long enough ago. There's a whole lot I can't remember, but so I'm taking kind of the main points that I can remember, the characters and places, but then fictionalizing it so I can turn it into a complete on. It's a fictional memoir of hitchhiking across the country.
Now I'm curious. You gave me the word curious, but I'm curious. How many places have you seen in the world?
I quit counting the number of countries I've been to after 40, so 40 plus countries. Been to 49 of the 50 US states, been to most all the Canadian provinces. But yeah, I'm pretty well traveled, but I'm also really sick and tired of flying. I really have developed an animus to flying. So my traveling this year, my wife and I do little weekend driving trips. We pick out a small town, or some interesting little place that's not, it's kind of off the beaten track, and we go and we spend a day or 2 days just exploring this little town or this park. And so I'm back to doing road trips.
I like that.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, you just never know what you're gonna find, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be crowded in this metal tube for hours and hours and treated like cattle. I just don't like that anymore.
Yeah, I love road trips because you find incredible things. You find some gems, some hidden gems. Sometimes when you just go for a drive, you're like, "Oh, when did that open? When did that come here?" You know?
Yeah, and in your own car, you can stop whenever you want. And just, check it out. See something. Oh, that looks interesting. Let's pull over.
So we're almost at the end there, Jeff. So do you want to give us the last shout out for pickleball for anybody who would like to play with the pickle?
No, I really think you should keep your pickle to yourself. No, I think we should end on curiosity rather than pickling, or else we'll end up pickled.
Well, you can also go and get your pickleball book that you have, the soap opera book, because I think that's what you were on season 3 for, was the pickleball.
That's right. That's why you got pickle stuck in your brain. I'll always be associated with a pickle in Miss Liz's brain.
It's the soap opera of Miss Liz, I'm telling you. Well, it was really an honor to have you back, Jeff, and it was nice to catch up with you. Again, thank you so much, Jeff, for giving me this time. And the technology, you didn't win. We came back, we stayed on, and we did it. So thanks for that. I will be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Scott Overton. He is from Northern Ontario, so he is a homeboy for me because I'm a Ontario Northern girl. I live in the South now, but I am from the North, so we're going to talk a little bit about science fiction. So again, we're going to be talking about science, Jeff. So
Hey,
it's going to be cool. It's going to be amazing. So for anybody that would like to check that out, check out the YouTube channel, give it a quick subscribe, and you'll be notified every time Miss Liz goes live. And it's every Thursday, 10 a.m., 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There is 3 new guests, 3 new TEAs, and we all make a difference when we serve our true selves. So again, thank you. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m.
thank you, Miss Liz. Great to be with you.
It's an honor.